I'm Elba Maldonado Colon, Chair of the Provost Search Committee. Welcome, everybody. This is our second forum to meet the candidates for the Provost Search. Today we have Dr. Charles Bullock, who will be addressing you in a little while. I would like, first of all, to have the members of the search committee to stand up. So last time I forgot to say to have them stand up. Here is our committee. We've worked very hard on this, and I wanted to thank them because there are many hours that have been spent on this effort. Please. Before Dr. Bullock begins his 10-minute presentation, that's what we asked him to do, 10 minutes, and then he will go on to take questions from the floor. We are taping this session. The previous session was also taped, and the next one will be too, and they will be available on Monday after 10:30 when the last session begins. The first two will be available, and then the last one will be uploaded as soon as we are done or within a reasonable time. So if you need to review something, to provide us feedback, we have given you a page that has on the back the feedback form. You can also access it online. All you have to do is go to Provost Search, click there, and find your way to the part where the form is. So you can provide it online too. You can provide the feedback today, or if you want to wait, you can also do that. But we need it by noon the 22nd. After that, we shut down, and no more feedback accepted. So make sure that if you're going to withhold until then, that November 22nd at noon will be the time when we close it. So meanwhile, you can give us feedback anytime. Let's see what else we have. Okay, those are the important procedure points. Dr. Bullock comes to us from he is here. He comes from San Jose State. He is the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. And before that, he was Dean at the University of Nevada, the College of Health and Human Sciences. His doctorate is from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And his writings and publications, which are books and articles, deal with leisure and disabilities. And I found it very interesting because I was living through all of that. So not to take any more time, Dr. Bullock will be addressing you. Please help me welcome him.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Elba, and welcome to everybody today. I'm really happy to be here, honored to be one of the finalists for the provost position. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, but I'll tell you, many of you know Joe Crowley, who was interim president here for a while. When I first got this position as dean, Dr. Crowley said to me, he and I met, and he said, you know, I think you'll come to love San Jose State just like I did. And he's absolutely right. It is a place that I've come to love. I've been here 3 years and really do appreciate, enjoy, and know just where we can go as a campus. As Elba said, get a little bit of history. Let me go back a little bit more and tell you that I came up through the ranks. I was a faculty member initially. In fact, actually, my initial appointment was as a lecturer at, does this sound okay? I was initially a lecturer, and I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on soft money. And my chair said, we've got 1 year and the funding ends, non-tenure track position, and he said, if you stay, you create you generate the funds yourself. I was fortunate enough to be able to generate funds and stayed in that position for 4 years, and then moved from there into a tenure track position and continued on. So I've been a faculty member. I've been the director of a self-support research center. I've been chair at 2 different universities and dean at 2 different universities. So my perspective is one of an insider because I'm at San Jose State now, but yet still something of an outside perspective because I haven't been here my entire career. I think that's a value. I think it's value added for in the provost office, and something I'm really proud of. My goal, my hope for the university is that we will become the strongest CSU in the system. I know that's shared by the president. He and I just talked recently, and I've heard him say it before, but it certainly is my hope as well, is that we will move forward and become the strongest CSU in the system. Since I've been at San Jose State, I've been involved in a number of committees, and I'd like to say a few of those. First of all, when I first got here, I was on the Academic Senate. I knew that one way for me to get really involved in campus was to be part of the Senate, and I was part of the Senate the first year I was here. I was asked to be on the Provost Retention and Graduation Task Force. I did that. Still am on that committee. That's probably the most important issue on our campus right now is graduation and retention. I also am currently on the President's Strategic Planning Board. I was part of the process to get the draft that we saw come out just yesterday to so many of us. And also been a member of the Space Advisory Committee. Space is a big issue for us on campus right now, and it's always has been probably, but certainly that's been a good committee to be on as well. In addition to those committees here at San Jose State, I'd like to tell you just a few things that we've done in our college over the last couple of years that end with where I see the academic affairs going. In our college, we've done lots of things. I'd love to tell you all of them, but I promise you don't want to hear them all. But one of the things I'm most proud of, excuse me, is, oh, that's right, there's water up here. They do that for candidates, you know. Anyway, Student Success Center. As I mentioned a minute ago, student success is probably the biggest issue on campus right now. It's important. We have some of the most despicable rates of graduation, six-year graduation. And as a result of that, the provost had the commission, his task force on retention and graduation. In our college, we recognized early on it's important to develop a student success center that would deal with advising and also many other issues related to student success. We were able to generate funds and develop a beautiful, if you've ever seen it, Student Success Center, and one that also is not just a great environment for students to be involved, but also the services we're providing there are as good as any student success services on our campus. So I'm really proud of that as a major function. We've also been very involved in increasing scholarship in our college. We have been consciously trying to develop a culture of research and scholarship in the college. To that end, we have given research incentive grants or pilot grants to a number of faculty members, and they were faculty members, some assistant professor up to full professor. So we really weren't saying this is just for one group or another. It's for anybody in the college. The idea for us was at the same time we're increasing the culture of scholarship was to also make sure that our proposals that came forward were interdisciplinary, collaborative, community engaged, and sustainable. Sustainable in the sense that they would move toward grant submissions or otherwise be able to continue the project that was started further on. They've been very successful. Our grant submissions have increased. Our grant success rate has increased. Our submissions of refereed publications and acceptances have all increased. So it's been a very good program. Very happy about that. In addition, we also have established research infrastructure in the college where we provide assistance for people in their scholarship. So a second thing that has been really important. A third is our community engagement. We're very involved in the community. Every single major in our college requires an internship. So everybody in our college is engaged in the community in that way. An additional thing we've done, some of you have heard of the Timpani Center. The Timpani Center is a center in the community. It was owned by Santa Clara County. It was a center that has provided services for seniors and people with disabilities for many years. The county did a good job running it for a while, but then didn't do such a good job. And then as sorry, my timer just told me I had time. I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, make a long story short, the Timpani Center, we took over. We started running it. In 2 years' time, we went from a losing proposition to one that breaks even. We involve 6 different departments from our college in that center. We have student internships, we have service learning, we have undergraduate and graduate research, and a very engaged community, so incredibly exciting. There are many more things I'd love to tell you about, but I'm sure some of those will come out as we're talking. But just to say that as provost, the things that I would really focus on is, number 1, student success. Number 2, globalization. Number 3, continuing to increase the research presence and culture on our campus. Number 4, increasing entrepreneurial and resource-generating ventures, because our budget is not going to go anywhere but continuing down. And 5th, community engagement, continued community engagement of that. So those are things that I would do. Now is your chance to ask me questions. You've got me for the next 40 minutes or so. And I invite you to ask anything you want, and I'll do my best to respond. Yeah, and there's a microphone on both sides. Welcome you to come down to that. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and tell me what department you're from, and your rank, if you're a student, what year you are.
Dr. Bullock, I'm sure you actually know who I am, because you served on the Senate, and I've been on the Senate, and all
Indeed.
of that. I am slightly, if you don't mind my saying so, disturbed by your list of goals that you had in mind. You didn't mention one that I think really should also be important, and that is the independence of the campus out of this bureaucratic system that we have that's run out of Long Beach. And what I have specifically in mind, and it may perhaps even contradict your philosophy regarding globalization, but as you know, out of Long Beach, there came the, quote, request that each university donate $50,000 to create some kind of a monstrous structure in Long Beach for online instruction, for which we have now a vice chancellor or someone of that rank. And as a member of the Curriculum and Research Committee on this campus, on this academic senate, what they're trying to do has a great deal to do with curriculum. And we, the faculty, have not been consulted at all, and it appears that we're not going to be consulted. So therefore, my question is, you as provost, how would you react to all of that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's crucial that our faculty are involved in those kinds of decisions, and you're right. We exist in a system. We're not San Jose State by itself, and I'm not going to start a succession movement right now. It's crossed my mind, but I'm not going to bring that up. But it is important, and I think there's got to be voice of faculty in everything that we do, particularly curriculum matters. The faculty are such an important part of that, as are the students in that process. What I would want to do is hear that loud and clear anytime, whether it's that or any other issue where faculty aren't part of that discussion, to make sure that the word is heard, and then as provost, we'll meet with the other provosts in the center, and together take that message forward. So one of the things that you would probably ask any of the chairs in my college about how do I transmit what their concerns are forward, I think they would all tell you that I routinely say, you tell me what the issues are, and I'll make sure our provost hears that. And so I would do the very same thing in this case, where it came up through the ranks, to the deans, to me, and I would move it forward. So, and it doesn't really contradict anything I've said, so, quite yet. Other questions? Here comes one. Hello, Wiggsy. I am a stranger here, and so but it's nice to see you all. So.
It's nice to see you too. I actually have 3 questions, and if you would indulge me, because I'm covering crisis for counseling and can't stay. The first question I have has to do with what you would do as provost to really assure that all of the elements of diversity will be looked at and proactively addressed so that we can become an inclusive and welcoming campus to all people.
Okay. I think it's incredibly important. I like to tell the story that when I interviewed in 2008, Kathleen Rowe all but took me by the hand and took me to classes and of one of her classes so that I could see students, and I really appreciate that. And the one thing I saw was, in that very day, was the diversity that we have. If there's one thing that may have tipped me over to take to accept the job here was that when I said hello to those students, there were a dozen students, and of course she'd orchestrated this, as you might guess, but I had a hello and a welcome from 12 different students, all from their native language, and that was really impressive to me. I hear on campus all the time that we have 110, we speak 110 different languages at home, and that's exciting to me, but I'm not sure that we fully, and maybe what you're getting at, I'm not sure we really fully do much more than be proud of that. I would like to see us really work closely with individual groups and collectives of groups with students to make sure that they feel comfortable, and that's got to start before they get here. It's got to start pre-freshman year. It's got to continue throughout. And I can just tell you that it would be a major part of what my job would be to feel like we had done more than just be proud of our diversity, but really learned how to make everybody feel welcome, regardless of who they were, where they're from, and what they're doing. So, a sort of pre-freshman all the way through graduation.
Thank you. My second question is, unfortunately, you're from here because you wouldn't be able to depend on our new website to find the Division of Student Affairs. It's deeply buried. And so, but you are from here, so you should know something about student affairs. Tell me what you know about it and what you think about it.
Could I ask Bill to leave for a few minutes, maybe, or no? Just kidding.
I want to complain about the website.
What I know about student affairs, you know, I just had a meeting with the vice presidents, and one of the things I said, in fact, to Bill Nance a minute ago, was that I look forward as provost to working with all vice presidents, particularly student affairs. There's so much that we need to do together. It's very clear to me, at least from where I sit as dean, that there's been siloing on campus, where student affairs is here and other divisions are here, and even silos within those divisions. I want to make sure we've started breaking some of those down. I'd like to break those even further down to make sure that we can work together. One of the most important areas of student affairs for me, and one that Bill probably is guessing I'm going to say something about, is enrollment services. And you know, we've begun to really work more closely with that. But there's so much of student affairs that supports academic affairs that I want to feel like I'd like to get that question in 3 years and say, you know, there's not that division. We do work together, and I know under Bill's leadership, there's a desire to do that.
I'm going to push you a little more on that. I hear
Sure.
about the enrollment services, but what do you know about the specific programs within student affairs? Do you know what they are?
You mean in terms of counseling and Cesar Chavez and blah blah? Yes, I've got a good sense of that whole division.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out to you that you want to know about athletics. It's right on the front page of the website.
And let's see, is Tommy Bowen here? Let's see. No, okay.
The third question I have is that I've been here a long time, as you know. And one of the things that has become clear to me is that there are departments on this campus that tend to kind of operate as though they're their own personal fiefdom or place organization and not really pay attention to the rest of the campus. And that's disturbing to me because I think it negatively affects students. And I'm wondering what you will do to kind of break down that barrier around some of those departments.
I can tell you what I've done in my own college because that's disturbing to me as well. When anybody thinks that that they're bigger than their parent, if you will. And I actually, before I do that, I'll tell you that in North Carolina, when I was there many years ago, I mentioned being the director of a research center. Our research center had more faculty and more money than my department had, so I understand that feeling. And I didn't feel like I got the support that I needed from my chair, and I often felt like I was a fiefdom. I'm just sort of self-disclosing here a little bit. So I understand that process. When I came here and I saw that there was a unit in my college that I felt was doing the same thing, I understood that, and I was able to sit down with them and say, I know what that's like. I've been there, but you are stronger, and we are stronger if we all work together. And I'm happy to say that that is has and is turning around, and I just won't tolerate that. So, thank you. Now, not everybody gets 3 questions, but let's see.
Hello, my name is Catherine Blackmer, and I'm a librarian, and I'm also a representative or a member of the Chicano Latino Faculty Staff Association, and I'm really asking my questions in part of that. I have 2 questions. One is I was wondering your thoughts of our the university's goal is becoming an HSI. As a member of the CLFSA and sort of being part of the Chicano Latino community here on campus, I find that the work that's being done is removed from these communities and not integrating us in the discussion. And so I'm wondering, is this really about getting $15 million to be an HSI? Or, you know, what is it about to really be an HSI? So I'm a little critical of the process of what's going on. The second question is, what are your thoughts of...
Can you hold that question,
sure.
that second question?
Okay.
Just let me just respond quickly to that and say that I understand your concern. I'd feel the exact same way, I think, if I were you. One of the things that I will say, not just about that, but about any number of issues, is that my email is always open, my door is open. I want to hear those things before the community feels like they're not, they're disenfranchised and not part of that. I want to hear that early on, so.
Okay. So my second question is, in regards to your thoughts of the Chancellor's Initiative Fellowship, while there's a success rate of hiring faculty, most of those that I've known, or at least those that I know on this campus, and those that have received the fellowship have come in as lecturers, but then are not hired as faculty. And of course, being in the community that I am, they're race ethnic faculty. Currently, there's one in Mexican American Studies and another one in Women's Studies. And so I'm wondering, you know, the goals of, although you're interested in, you know, in developing and diversifying the campus, and one of your 5 points was, you know, the recruitment of students and all. I didn't hear anything as far as the recruitment and retention of the faculty of race ethnic. So.
It's a great point. My philosophy to start off with is that that if we bring somebody on board, we bring them on board because we know there's somebody that will add value to our campus and our programs. To that end, I think, and I've done this in our college, I've done this in previous places I've been, where I make sure that that person, if indeed there's someone we want to retain, from the very beginning, that person, and I assume they are going to be, that we make sure that person has a mentor/mentors all the way through the process. There's never a question that they wouldn't get hired. Unless there's somebody ends up that's of course a lot better than that. But I mean, we work with that person as if they're going to be part of us for that point on. So I don't want to get somebody here and then not give them what they need to be successful. So I'd make sure that happens for my office anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeremy Kemp, faculty in School of Library and Information Science. And I see you as a builder. Last time I saw this on campus was the fellow who built the MLK and the fellow who built the student dormitories. But you also shepherded a growth in library and information science to 2,300 students, the largest in the country. What did you learn in that process, and what will you teach to this campus in that process?
Yeah. I learned in that process, Jeremy, that we have some, not just that program, we have a number of great programs on our campus, not always highlighted. And in some ways, what I saw with library information science was a program that wasn't as recognized and as appreciated as it needed to be, either at the college or at the university level. And so what I would do is I take that to other groups, is recognize the stars we really have and try to figure out what it is about those that make them great. In the case of SJSU, it's the incredible innovations you have, the technology that you use, and look at those programs and then help people understand what it is that helped you continue to move forward and move those forward as well. Does that get at what you're asking? Okay, thank you so much.
Dan Perales, Health Science Department. As you know, I am the director of our MPH distance program, and I'm wondering from the standpoint of the Provost Office, how do you see the Provost Office reinforcing and making strong, making San Jose State what I see is the potential of the premier distance learning institution, at least on the West Coast, if not nationally. Yeah. How can the Provost Office reinforce that?
Well, you know, I hate to always say, here's what I did in CASA, but I can go back and say, because that is an important part of where I've come from. But in CASA, Jeremy's talking about the Library Information Science program. It is an online program. It is probably the strongest online program that I've ever been a part of, and it will continue to grow. I'm really proud in our college that we've got online programs in library information science, I mean degree programs, and also in public health, in occupational therapy. We have programs in nursing. We're getting ready to start programs in justice studies. So in our college, we have a number of really strong programs, and in the next 2 years, we'll probably have 2 or 3 more of those. What that does, and I'm sort of getting back to your question, I promise, but what that does is establish ourselves as leaders in e-learning. It also establishes ways for us to generate additional resources because, as you know, in your program and SJSU and many others, there is resource generation that's part of this. And if there's anything we have to do on our campus as our state budget continues to go down and down, is figure out other ways that we can back it up and provide those resources. So as provost, I would put the same sort of attention and support and building, as Jeremy's saying, behind e-learning on our campus as on the whole campus as we do in your program and others. That means making sure there's the technology to support it, making sure there's the hardware, the software, and the personnel to support that, because you can't do it. I know in your programs you have to have staff there all the time as part of that, as do they. I want to make sure that we have the infrastructure as a campus to do it. We also have in international and extended studies, they have just been developing a strategic plan for e-learning for the campus, and it's something that I'd want to then have that vetted throughout academic affairs and make sure we can do it. But for me, put the resources behind it to make it work. And I think you're absolutely right, Dan. Liz?
Hi, you know me from engineering. I want to get back into student success. Mm-hmm. So I think we've had a little uptick in the graduation rate, which my guess is primarily due to the low-hanging fruit, which is the super seniors. And of course, we've, by establishing a new position that Maureen's in, we've established a lot of efforts, including the success centers. But the one piece I haven't seen us address is that it's well known that close relationships with faculty, time with faculty, is a huge element of student success. And as long as we keep increasing the proportion of part-time faculty to tenure track, we're never going to crack that one. I just wonder what your thoughts are on the relationship of our tenure track faculty situation to student successes.
I mean, that's about 4 questions in one, actually, but that's okay. There are, anybody in this room knows that that we've pretty much decimated our tenure-track faculty in the last several years. We've had retirements, we've had resignations, we've had deaths, we've had people that didn't get tenure. And our faculty dropped down by this much, and we've only increased by about this much to get back up there. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're not doing well. I think that it's going to be a little bit of a longer answer too, but I think that means I just got an email last night from a faculty member, a chair in my department, that talked about some unexpected resignations and changes and how they need to hire more staff. I wrote back to that faculty member fairly quickly and said, we have to, I want you to continue to develop the snapshot you have of who you are and what you have to offer, because we're going to have to start looking at a campus of how do we build that faculty back up? Do we build it back in that department, and in fact add 5 more, or do we not do that? And those are hard calls, but I think they're things we have to do as a campus, and we can't, we're starting to do that already on a campus, but I think we've got to build back our faculty. We have to build it back right, build it back strategically, build it back carefully, and there's no question that it's a huge part of graduation and retention. So I would see us continuing to hire faculty, but doing it after we have a careful look. In our college right now, I've asked all the chairs and directors to, I shouldn't be looking just you, but I've asked all the chairs and directors to give me a snapshot of who they are and what they look like, and look at SFRs and look at FTS and FTF and number of majors, and really try to decide, and then look at mission, and do you fit in the mission of the university strongly or not as well? And we're going to have to start making some really hard choices, and I think that's got to start, and it's got to be led from the provost office. One more thing about graduation is that, and this may come up as another question later, but I think we have done well with graduation rates. It is probably because of the low-hanging fruit. But I'd want to focus a lot more on retention. I'd want to sort of back up and spend a lot more time on retention. And although Maureen might gasp, I think she's in here. She may gasp, but I'm not satisfied with a graduation rate of 9% increase. I want to double that, and I'm going to work really hard to make sure we can do that. So. I'm not going to gasp. Okay, good.
I'm Professor Rome Zabalius in the Department of World Languages and Literatures, and also a statewide academic senator. As a provost, you would be the chief of faculty, and you're a prolific researcher yourself. You have also stressed the importance of research. However, we are not a UC campus, and even if we want to be the best in the CSU system, there's a price to pay for good research. As much as it is important for good teaching, it's getting increasingly difficult. We have a course load for many professors of 4 courses in each semester. Mm-hmm. And some even do teach in the off semester, in winter session or in summer session to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. And we have more and more students. Our students increase, our faculty don't. So that means we have more workload. To the additional workloads, there's more advising, larger classes, more correction, etc. At the same time, RISCA funds have been cut by the system. The current provost has managed from the operating budget to eke out some funds to support research, but in our departments and on various other levels, on the college, support for research financial support has dwindled. You admitted yourself that it doesn't look good, that the budget is getting any better. What, as a provost, are you going to do? And I don't want to hear that you can do it all. It is impossible. I don't believe in that. So I want to know, are you going to make adjustments to the workload? That would require money. Are you going to change the retention and tenure and promotion process in that respect, that you would ask less of faculty in order to get tenure and to get promoted? Or are you simply going to admit that quality necessarily will have reduced if funds are being reduced? Thank you.
Yep. That's another dozen questions in one. So, but absolutely no to the final piece of reducing quality. I'd have no interest in reducing quality, and I do understand the increasing workload. I think it's something that has to be confronted and confronted head on. I don't expect us to be a UC. Never have and never would expect that. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't expect us to have more doctoral culture, to have more research focus on campus at the same time. I did admit several times, and I'll continue to admit several times, that our state budget will continue to decrease. There's no question in my mind that we're going to have fewer dollars as the years go on from the state. If the rest of the nation's any indication, that certainly is what's been happening. But as a result of that, we have to take the opportunity. I don't want to see this just as a problem that we're losing money and our workload's high in this. I say to our faculty and our chairs and directors on a regular basis, don't tell me why we can't do this. Tell me if it's important to do, and then let's figure out how to do that. And I don't mean that to sound quite as Pollyannish as it might, but I think we have to, as an institution, figure out things like what's important about workload, what's important about research. And to the extent that they are, then I will work doggedly to figure out ways to make it happen. So I'm always a start from, let's see if it's something the campus really wants to do. And so I can see myself at academic senate meetings listening to these kinds of discussions, but I would put it right back to the group and say, let's figure out what's important to us as a university, and I will do everything I can to make sure there's support to do that. So I will not reduce quality, but I do want to recognize the importance of our faculty and the hard work we do, but to make us even stronger. Heidi?
I'm Heidi Pendleton, chair of the Occupational Therapy Department and also chair of the University Accommodations Review Board. And Charlie, you've been a fantastic member of the Accommodations Review Board, and your career as a therapeutic recreation therapist, as well as your research into inclusion of people with physical disabilities and mental health disabilities and a variety of disabilities, is impressive. And I just wondered, as provost, what would be your commitment to students and faculty and staff with disabilities across campus?
Thanks, Heidi. And as Heidi said, I am a member of the Accommodations Review Board. It has been part of my history. Part of everything I've done in my almost entire life has been dealing with people with disabilities and fairness and equity for that group. I would want to make sure that we continue to have the support we need at expanded levels if we need to do that. And from the provost's office, the provost as the chief academic officer has to make sure that we provide a quality education for every student on campus. If we admit students on campus, as we do, that need accommodations, we have to make sure that we're able to do that and do it well for students. So it's, as you might guess, a high priority for me and one that I would not take lightly at all. I think, Scott, you were, no? Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Hi, my name is Serena. I'm actually a student here, undergraduate for 5 years and now a grad student.
In what department?
In clinical psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been very active on campus, so I've seen a lot of things that students are involved in. I was just hoping you can speak to how you would either create new programs to facilitate students who are low-income first-generation parents or working. We do have a lot of those on campus, and also how you would support the programs we already do have. Also, a lot of students on campus are actually unaware of the programs we do have or aren't able to use them because they are working or they live too far and they have to commute. How would you encourage participation in these programs for those students?
Another multi-question piece there. Communication is probably a mantra for me. It's really important that we make sure that that people know of what's available, and that's, you know, we've got wonderful resources on our campus, and we don't have the staff to do all we need to do. So I want to make sure that that's clear on websites, in printed materials, to the extent that we can do that in classes, wherever the opportunity is, to make sure we let people know what's out there available to them. We just had a scholarship, or actually a donor recognition ceremony in our college on Monday night, and what's real clear to me in sort of preparing for that was that students don't even know there's scholarships available to them, much less all the other things that might be available. So we have a huge job, and I think, without saying how I'd exactly deal with that one, I can tell you that communication is something I want to make sure happens around those issues and so many other issues on our campus. The other thing, too, about the first part of your question, when you're talking about low-income students and first-generation students, that goes back to an issue of retention as well, because those students that come to us with no college-going culture, with not a lot of funds, are some of the people that have the lowest graduation rates on campus. We're about 35.5% graduation rate in 6 years. That's 35.5%. Do you all know that? That's awful. But that's the kind of thing you're talking about. So I would back up, as I said a few minutes ago, I'd back up, as I was saying to Emily, I'd back up and look at retention early on and start the retention efforts before students ever get to campus. And I think it's important for students pre-campus to hear from not just advisors, but hear from deans, and to hear from deans once they get on campus, and to have programs that will make sure we keep our students, programs like first-year experience courses, programs like early research involvement, international experiences, any number of other things, peer mentoring, whatever it may be, and we have to really work hard to retain our students, and that probably is the most important thing for that group of students and so many others.
Hi, Scott Bostic from journalism. My main questions were already asked and answered remarkably well. But I thought of another one sitting here.
And since you'd already walked down front.
Yeah, I don't want to waste the trip. As you've mentioned that state support is not likely to rise and in fact is likely to go down, so we need to look for other sources of income, and that's likely to be grants and donations from business. I worry about how do we continue to support, say, departments in the humanities that don't have a natural link to business, like English, theater, history, philosophy. How do we keep those going?
You know, it's not the easiest thing to do, but I can tell you in my own area, my own discipline, as Heidi mentioned a minute ago, my area of research has been, or maybe Elba said actually, in areas of saying leisure and disability, and leisure and people with disabilities, and I'm sorry, and health and people with disabilities. And if you ask a dozen people that are funders, are there grant funds for that? They would tell you routinely no. And that's the truth. You don't ever find an RFP that says, we'd like to study what I just told you I study. Yet I've been successful and received over $7 million in grants to do that kind of work during my career, and I've helped other people get that same money. So one of the things that I've been good at, and I can help other people do as well, is identify ways to generate funds when they think it's impossible to do. So just to simply say that, and I've heard it over and over again from my field and from so many others, that I'm in an area I can't generate any funds. I can't get grants. Nobody's going to give us any donations. Baloney is what I say to that, because they can. It takes creativity. It takes really thinking it through. So I would be committed to helping work through that process and help people think of ways to make that happen. One of the things that I hadn't mentioned this to the deans yet, although I see a couple of them here, is that one of the things that I want to do as the deans meet together is meet more often with development, our fundraising folks, and learn from each other, things that have worked in my college, things that have worked in business, things that have worked other places, and so we all can become better fundraisers, because the job of deans these days, increasingly, is to make sure that we fundraise and are able to generate funds to help catch up with where we've lost. So.
Hi, Allison Bridger, meteorology and climate science. I'll try to make this quick. I'll try to ask the opposite question. Last summer 2010, the provost was given a mandate to cut, and so the choice was made to cut staff, support staff, which for some of us has been more devastating than others. So now, in addition to being, I'm a chair, part-time teacher, part-time researcher, part-time mom, part-time human being, part-time secretary, part-time tech. Doesn't leave any time for anything. And by the way, the one thing that's suffering is my teaching, okay? So here's my question. If you're provost, and assuming the budget goes down, what do you cut next?
You know, I thank you for asking that, because that's not a question I'm willing to answer. Because I don't look at what do I cut next. I want to back up to that and look at what is important in our program. So I would ask your department and your department and your department and all the others. Again, like I've just done with our college, to give a snapshot of what we have there and look at what's important. And I think we would together have to make hard decisions. If there were programs that would be eliminated, if there are degrees. In my own college, there is one program that has 9, it's one major with 9 emphases in it. And I was at a faculty meeting not long ago with this department and sort of made a comment that doesn't seem like a very efficient way to run business. And sure enough, they said, well, so you mean we have to drop one of our emphases? I said, no, you probably have to drop 7 or 8 of those emphases. But you've got to figure, and I sort of did it tongue in cheek, but what I was saying was you have to figure out what it is that makes you efficient and run. And I understand it's not just your departments all over campus that's happening. So rather than say, what do we cut next, I say, let's figure out who we are, let's figure out how we get a sense of where our strengths are, and are there places that you can cut so that I don't have to be the person that does the cutting. You can say to me, you know, we don't need to do blop blop here or in this area. I'm a person that wants to support strong programs. I don't want to prop up weak ones. And so I'm going to ask us to do it together. And the deans and I would work together, and they'll be working with you to figure out who you are, where you are, and let's try to figure out cuts. So the cuts would be ones that we do collectively, not ones that I would just say, by the way, you're getting cut again. And I mean that too, by the way. That's not just a fluff answer. If you ask my chairs, I work that way. So,
good
hello,
morning.
Dina.
Hi. How are you, Charlie?
Good.
Enjoying the process?
Indeed.
I'll try. I'm going to switch gears a little
Sure.
bit. You mentioned earlier that within your college you've increased interdisciplinary collaboration, and I've always felt that is extremely important. I've always been a faculty. I've never been an administrator, but every time we bring this up, one of the hurdles that is cited is that the current funding model prevents that. For example, I can see us sharing laboratories far more effectively than the silo-type laboratories. Mm-hmm. I've also been told that because of the RTP process, we cannot appoint faculty in 2 or 3 different disciplines, yet almost every other university seems to be doing that. So my question is, what sort of changes might you contemplate instituting to make this a reality? Because I think that's crucial for us as we move forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Excellent point. Excellent comment, Guna. Anybody that has worked with me, other deans, academic affairs, management team, knows that I've talked about interdisciplinary programs for a long time and interdisciplinary hires for a long time. And I do understand some of the realities of that makes it harder when you're housed in 2 places. Nonetheless, I think it's important, and I will probably bring that back to the table. Not probably, I will bring that back because I think it's important. I'd also like to tell you, and I see Dean Parrish back there, we're working, our college and College of Science is working together to do just what you're talking about, to share laboratories, to where we have a forensic science program that's housed in justice studies, and we have lots of interaction with biology and chemistry, and maybe with nuclear science. And we are already working together to develop a forensic science lab that would be not only used by justice studies, but also by chemists and biologists. And at the same time, some of their labs might be used by us. So it's a process that I already believe in, we're already doing some of, and I'd like to see it go further, and I would probably be relentless about that. Hello, Gus, you gonna sing for us?
Hi, Charles, no. But I'm Gus Lease, over in music, and this is my 62nd year of teaching here at San Jose State. And there's one thing that I say when I go to all the meetings, and there have been many, many over the years in the state of California, and not only the state of California, but nationally. I've said that San Jose State is the oldest public institution of higher education in the state of California. Not only that, I add, and the best. Now, you mentioned that you're going to try to make us the best. I've been saying that we are the best. And there's no doubt that San Jose State has a great history and that we're, you know, tops. And when you go and get this job, which you probably will, I hope, I hope that, you know, that attitude is we are the best. You're going to be occupying a office of the best university in the CSU system. Now, there's one thing also that I've been a member of a union in the old days, California State Employees Association. The only way that you could get your health benefit was that you had to join CSEA. And we had Cal Western health insurance. The employee got 80% of the benefit, and then you had to pay 20%. But getting on with the union, there was a great statesman here in the state of California by the name of Al Rada, Senator Al Rada, in Sacramento. And a good friend of mine, because we both sat on a state committee, the Center for Youth Citizenship. And for 7 years, I sat there, and then all of a sudden I said, Al, I said, I know that you carried our collective bargaining law for faculty and higher education in the state of California. Why did you do it? And his answer was, you know, I think that I just felt that sensible people, intelligent people, ought to be able to sit down and talk about their problems in the higher education system, about their working conditions, about their families, anything that comes up, about the students and what their problems are. And so he said, I got that law through for the faculty. What is your real true feeling, Charles, about collective bargaining? What does it mean to you? There can be a lot of problems if you're in that office with faculty and students and all that. And you know, are you one that really believes that we can sit down, because right now we're having all kinds of problems with the chancellor's office. You know, we do have a law. They walk away from the table and bargaining. But Al Rada felt that, you know, we ought to be able to sit down and talk about it. Are you a man that would talk about it?
Yeah. Gus, one thing I can say, and to all of you, is that when I came into this system 3 years ago, I had never been involved in a collective bargaining system. And it was the question asked very hard during the interview process. And I can tell you, one of the very first things I did when I got here was to meet with union leadership on our campus, and I continue to do that. Without going into particulars, I can tell you that on more than one occasion I've met with with union leadership to talk about issues, faculty or staff in our college, and have very often been able to divert grievances and come out with, believe it or not, win-win situations. And I believe, and so I've had success with that. I would continue to have success with that. I am a person who will sit down and I believe in frank, honest communication that leads to collaboration, not contention. So, absolutely.
Okay, our time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Bullock.
Okay, thank you.
Don't forget to give us the feedback one way or another, electronic or by paper.